Hello, and good morning, you. How are you feeling today? It's Monday, and I know for some, Monday can be a little bit challenging, but what if we could celebrate Monday as much as we celebrate Friday? Just something that I talked about last week, and so I wonder how that's working for you this morning. If I'm being real, I had to kind of think about it myself this morning, but I'm going to keep trying. So for those of you that don't know me or don't know me well yet, my name is Allison Nail-Malone of Malone Consultants Group. I am a women's executive leadership coach, as well as a mindfulness-based stress reduction mentor. And I specialize in creating a VIP day that is transformational and really creates movement in your career, your personal and your professional life. And so today, I want to have a little bit of a conversation about mindfulness ways to pay more attention. And so I intended, when I created the mindfulness message, the 720 mindfulness message, just to bring in a little bit more, in 10 minutes or less, a little bit more mindfulness into your day. Just simple techniques that can bring in more mindfulness into your leadership style, into your communication style, as well as in your presence. And these are intended to either just get things kind of brainstorming in your mind, or useful techniques that you can take away and apply right away. And so today I just want to talk a little bit about how to mindfully pay attention. So this topic actually has come up over the course of the last 2 weeks with multiple of my clients, as well as conversations that I'm having with people about, Allison, how do I pay better attention? For me, I have been diagnosed with ADHD, and it made a lot of sense for me as to why it was really difficult for me to, remember things that I was saying, or to be present, or even just to kind of pay attention to the things that I was doing. I tend to be a master, quote unquote, master multitasker. And really, when I do my best work is when I'm a bit more single focused on what I'm doing. Yet my brain still sometimes has a tendency, even if I might be single focusing on something, there's something going on in the back of my brain or somewhere in my brain that is focused on all the list of the to-dos or the conversations that I've had or whatever it is. And so this was an interesting topic that has come up in several conversations over the course of the last 2 or 3 weeks. And even for myself, as I bring on more clients, as I'm getting ready to do some really interesting projects, and also going before a bunch of C-suite level leaders within organizations to talk about ways to bring transformational and conscious leadership into their workplace. I get so excited about the work that I'm doing that it is hard for me to stay and pay attention and stay focused. And so it seems like it's such an easy concept to say, well, I'm going to pay attention to this, or I'm going to be single focused on this. And really, it's not as easy as saying it, because there's so many things that pull us to our attention. For example, when you're in a meeting. So this weekend, I had a retreat at my house for the board for the Northwest Arkansas Center for Sexual Assault. Hey, good morning, Nate. I was focused on making sure things were organized, that people were doing what they needed to do, where they were supposed to be at, that I had, these things going on. And I had to stop and just focus on this one thing. And that was really hard for me to do. So I don't know if that's true for you. So if you're watching live or when you're watching the replay, let me know in the comments below. What, is it hard for you to stay single focused on a project or an idea or a conversation? Or you kind of like me, where there's a lot of things going on in your brain, or you're doing multiple tasks while lots of things are going on in your brain, right? So there's 2 ways that our brain kind of intends to pay attention. And so this is kind of the nerdy neuroscience stuff I love about our brain. And so there's this covert way that our brain works, and then there's this overt way that our brain works. So the overt way, attention. So it's overt attention. So what that means is that it's when your eyes move towards something that you want to focus on. So for example, if you're having a conversation with somebody, or maybe you're doing something and someone says, "Hey, Allison," and so then my eyes go to that person and I'm paying attention. So that's kind of an overt way that our brain is programmed to pay attention. Then there's the covert way. And the covert way is, think about like when you're driving. Part of it is working overtly, so your eyes are paying attention to the road, but the covert way that you're paying attention is you don't think about it. At some point when you've learned how to drive, you're not paying attention to how I'm moving the wheel, or that my foot is on the gas pedal, or that maybe I need to turn down the music because it's too loud, or that you're also being kind of conscious of what's going on around you, right? So that's kind of how your brain works covertly in paying attention. And when your brain starts to work on, okay, now I got to be overt and covert, and then there's all this other stuff that's going on, it's almost as if your brain is starting to kind of overload. And then these hormones start kicking in, and basically chemicals that are moving your body to kind of that fight, flight, or freeze system that is designed to protect you. And your brain is thinking like, oh my God, I'm getting ready to go into overload, so I need to figure out a way to conserve energy. So really mindfully paying attention creates an opportunity for your brain and your body to take a rest, because we have so many things that kind of pull in our attention that makes our brain and our body think that we're in a fight, flight, or freeze, and we've got to conserve energy and stay in a safe place. So there's two ways that I want to talk about specifically today, but there are several ways that we're going to talk about this week on how to mindfully pay attention. And so the two things I want to focus on today is, number one, to define your intention. So mindfully define your intention. So what I mean by that is, so for example, if you're getting ready to go into a meeting, what is your intention to going into that meeting and being single focused on that intention? So for example, when I'm getting ready to go meet with a prospective client, whether that's a one-on-one woman that is in a leadership role, and she has reached out to me to have transformational leadership coaching. So what's my intention when I go meet with her? My intention is that I want to find out two things that she is really challenged with, that I could perhaps either provide resources for her or talk about how coaching could be transformational for her once I know those two main things that are kind of on her heart and on her mind that she is highly frustrated with, that she wants additional coaching on. So my intention is to be mindfully present with her and really listen to her, ask her questions, and that my intention is to find out what's really bothering her, or what's been really frustrating with her, what's her pain point, so that I can share with her if the kind of coaching that I do actually would support her in moving her towards a less stressful and more present and conscious leadership. So that's my intention. Or maybe you are getting ready to go into a meeting. So what's your intention in going to that meeting? Is it just, today I'm going to be the second person that speaks in the meeting, and then the rest of the time I'm just going to listen? Or you're getting ready to go to work and you're getting ready to have a meeting with your boss. What is your intention when you go into that meeting? What that does is that starts to prepare your brain in order to say, oh, I don't need to be in a flight or fight or freeze state of mind. I'm safe, and I can focus on the intention, and I can focus on what's getting ready to happen. Right? Instead of being clouded with the chemicals and clouded with the mindset of all the things that are kind of going on in your brain. So that's number one. Number two, in mindfully paying attention, is defining or being very clear about how your core values, so what are your core values, and then which of those core values are you going to bring into either that meeting or that connection or that situation. So an example of that would be, so I'm going to go back to going to go meet with this prospective client. I've defined what my intention is, so now my brain can kind of just rest because I've already determined what my intention is for this meeting. And then I'm going to define, okay, so when I go into this meeting, which of my core values am I going to stay centered on so that my meeting with this person stays within the intention that I want, and that I could be, fully there for the person that I'm going to meet with. Because my intention is to find out what's going on with her so that I can either tell her yes or no that my coaching is going to be transformational for her. So one of my core values, so I actually have 5 core values, and my core values kind of spell out the acronym APPLE so I can remember it. And one of my core values is to practice mindful listening, mindful presence, and mindful communication. So when I'm going in to meet with her, my mindful presence is that I'm going to listen to her without responding or without the mindset of responding. I'm going to have that mindfulness presence with her, so I'm going to be facing her, me looking at her, and holding space for her as she's sharing with me her frustrations. And then my mindfulness communication is that I'm going to acknowledge that I've heard her. So what I've heard you say is, or I'm going to ask her questions based on the things that she's shared with me so that I can gain clarification, but also so that she knows that I have heard her. So I've defined what my intention is, and I've defined what my core values are. And going into that meeting with her makes that, one, less stressful for me, less stressful for her, and that it also has this intention around really being mindful and paying attention. Before being mindful about this, what would typically happen for me, hey, good morning, Kevin. What would typically happen for me is I would think I really want to know what she, what's really frustrating her. I want to know if I really do want to know if my coaching can help her. But before being mindful and really being conscientious about being mindful with her and paying attention to her, what would happen in the past is that would kind of be my thought, but then I would have all this other stuff going in the back of my mind, like I've got to do the laundry, I've got to go pick up my kiddo, I've got these projects that have a deadline, I've got a problem, I've got a personnel issue that I've got to take care of. And so all of that was going on at the same time while I'm trying to really serve my client. Well, that doesn't really serve my client, right? When I'm not mindfully paying attention to the intention and to my core values in that situation. So one way that you could practice that today is that I would encourage you, number one, whenever you're getting ready to go into a meeting or that you're going to have a connection with someone, just ask yourself, what is my intention when I'm going to go have this conversation with someone, or when I'm going to go have this meeting, or when I've got to go connect with somebody. Hey, good morning, Judith. So that is, I mentioned defining what your intention is and defining what your core values are so that you can mindfully pay attention. And so I want you to practice. I'm going to invite you to practice today. Just asking yourself that one question is, what is my intention before I connect with this person or I go into this meeting or that I'm going to walk into a situation where I'm having to deal with a person. So I'm curious how that might work for you today so that you can, in that moment, really pay attention and not allow all the other stuff that's kind of running in the background or that your body is kind of shifting into that fight, flight, or freeze. When you bring back the mindfulness of what's my intention that keeps you centered and focused and present with the person in front of you. So I hope today's mindfulness message is helpful, and it is a great tool and resource to start moving you in a 1% movement of more conscious leadership as a leader within your community, a leader within your company, and or the leader within your business. I hope today is amazing, and we'll talk more about this topic on Wednesday, right back here at 7:20 a.m. Central for the next mindfulness message. Have an incredible day, and I'll see you soon.